You all miss me? What's up, guys? So I got my next part of my death metal CD collection for you. It's going to be episode number 2. I know my last part of this was like 3 months ago, but oh well. So stuff happens. I'm going to try to roll out a bunch of these in a row. I do want to eventually show my entire collection of CDs, so we'll get to that. But first, what we're listening to, if you can hear it, this is Goltha with "You Starve the Cross." They were a Dr. Scent band who are no longer together. I believe it's the main guy is Wayne Sanatopoulos, who's been in a bunch of stuff. Not right now, he's in Angerot, and then you have Charlie from a band I'm going to mention pretty soon. But he's also done some live drumming from Incantation and Morbid Angels. So yeah, death kind of like, I don't want to call it technical, but like intricate, kind of weird and skronky death doom. And these guys are from San Diego, I believe, but yeah. Check it out, this is their second of the 2 full-lengths. I have both of them, but we'll mention them more when we get to the G's. Alrighty, first off, the only album I have by these guys, this is Angerot with the Profound Recreant. So this is their third of 4 full-length albums, put out through Redefining Darkness, who I've mentioned a bajillion times, is one of my favorite newer death metal labels. So to me, these guys are basically, they sound a lot like Bloodbath, like mid-era, so like Nightmares Made Flesh, Fabulous Mastery, that era of Bloodbath. But their most recent record from 2024 had a little bit of like a black metal edge to it, which is pretty cool because you don't really hear a lot of like HM2 death metal bands experimenting with black metal, so that was definitely a interesting change of pace. But I'll get the rest of their albums eventually, but it's one of those things where like they're never hard to find. You can get all the rest of their albums are like $10 a piece, so I don't need to exactly look hard because Redefining Darkness has the rest, but I'll get them eventually. But yeah, just good, solid HM2 Bloodbath style death metal, so check it out. Angra with the Profound Recreant. Go Slovakia for this next band. This is Apoplexy with Tears of the Unborn. So this came out originally in the early mid-90s. This is the Dr. Scent, the Crypt Dr. Scent reissue. So, because I know the original, this was pretty hard to find, but I don't know who did this album back in the day. This has the full length and the Dysmorphophobia demo. I believe this is the only full length, but don't quote me on that. So compare them to something kind of like, I would say the first Atheist, but it's like less thrashy and doesn't have any jazz elements, but it's kind of like intricate death metal, I guess is the best way to describe this record. But yeah, this is definitely, I'd say, one of those albums that if you know like you're below, not your like super basic bands, and you know like the less popular bands, is definitely like a album for those people who know the death metal. There's definitely one that people know, if you know what I mean. So yep. Apoplexy, Tears of the Unborn, and Dysmorphobia demo release. Awesome album. So since we're listening to Goltha, and it has Charlie, he was also in this band. This is Ascended Dead with Even Fall of the Apocalypse. So this is arguably more like the black and death or even war metal side. So if you like stuff like the last couple of Feather and Bone albums or Titan Blood, this is definitely a awesome release. And a little bit of Angel Corpse too, but they don't have any black metal elements like Angel Corpse did. But so yeah, let's put that through $20 spin, which is kind of odd for them. They don't really sound like a $20 spin band, but oh well. Hey man, not the most original thing, but if you just like no bullshit, to the throat, evil death metal, this is a awesome record. So Ascended Dead, Even Fall of the Apocalypse. And like always, when I've done my CD collections, I will I will at least put in the description the name of each band I'm going to mention. That way, if you don't know what I'm saying, you can at least discover. Alrighty, so next off, we are going to one of the big boys. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have all 10 albums from Asphyx. So first off, The Rack, which is the debut album from 1992, I think. 91, 92, something like that. So most people say this is their best album. It's not my favorite, but it's pretty close. So if you know your Death Doom, Asphyx is definitely one of the bigger bands in the scene. Although I kind of hesitate to call them Death Doom because a lot of the stuff is like more faster and more up-tempo, but they do have some slower moments too. I know they've been on Century Media, I think since the beginning, which is this is a Century Media 2006 reissue. And this also has, as a bonus, them playing live in Holland in 1991, which is sweet. Yep. Asphyx, The Rack, definitely one of the heaviest death metal records from the early 90s. And then we have my favorite Asphyx record, Last One on Earth, 1992. Century Media, this is a 2011 reissue. And this has bonus songs from the Crush the Cenotaph EP and the self-titled Asphyx demo tape, which is cool. I think that's the best artwork too. It's so simple, but I love that design. That's pretty sweet. They have an awesome logo too. And here's the CD. Shit, man. After this, we will discuss in a bit, but I think the period that comes after this is pretty underappreciated in my opinion. I know some people are like, oh, without Martin, blah, 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 but it's like, you know, he wasn't an original member, right? So, I always find that kind of odd that people say, like, they're only Martin era Asphyx fans when he wasn't even the OG guy to begin with, so it's like, hello, but anyway. So, Last One on Earth. Then their self-titled. I know some people say this is their worst album. I mean, they don't have a bad album, I think. This isn't my least favorite. We'll get to my least favorite in a minute, but this isn't one of my favorites though, but it's not a bad album by any means. This came out in 1995, I think is when this one came out. Again, through Century Media, which is weird. They did all of these, so I'm not gonna keep repeating myself and saying, oh, it's a Century Media, blah, blah, blah. Cool cover. I know their modern era, they don't have any original members left because their OG guitarist left a while ago, so, oh well. So, yep, self-titled. And then these next, let's do this. So these next two specifically, I think is their most underrated era. So I'll show them both at the same time. Well, actually, just go in order. So next up we have God Cries, their most underrated album of their entire discography, and I think one of the most underrated death metal albums by a big name band, just period. No one ever mentions this one. I should think Dennis from Analog Archives did a while ago. He's the only person I've ever seen mention this particular album, but if you like Asphyx, but you basically want them without any of the doom, this is their most straight up death metal sounding album, or their entire discography, so it's like the faster moments of the first two, but without any of the doom, so if you're not a Death Doom fan, this is the one I would recommend. And this has the original singer, Theo Lumens, who I believe killed himself. So, compared vocal-wise, he has a different personality than Martin. Martin's definitely, I would say, a lot like drier sounding, but Theo has a very cool vocal style too, so yep. So that is God Cries, like I said, their most underrated record in my opinion. So if I had to rate the discography, it would be Last One on Earth, The Rack, and then this. I love this album, man. So if you're going to listen to one thing I'm talking about today, check out God Cries. I swear this album is so underrated, it gets no love, which is a damn shame, but anyway. So God Cries. Then we have Embrace the Death. This also has Theo, I believe, on vocals. Let me double check that. Let me see. So I know this one was actually released, this was actually recorded in 1990. It was supposed to come before the rack, but for some reason it didn't come out till 1996. Not sure what the holdup was, but anyway. So, let me do this so you see. Trying to see if this one has Theo. I don't think it does. Or maybe it does, I don't remember, but. Yep, okay, it says Theo Lehman's. Yeah, I knew he was on this one. Okay, I just wanted to double check. He's mentioned in the credits, so there you go. It would have been interesting to hear this come out before the rack, but I'm not sure why they delayed it by 6 years, but oh well. Embrace the Death. Then we have On the Wings of Inferno. This is 1998 or 97. I believe this is the one that has the singer from Pentacle on vocals. It was either this or Self-Titled has that guy. I don't remember which one, but I know it's one of the two has the singer from Pentacle doing vocals. Ship on the Wings of Inferno, awesome record. Not one of my favorites, but still a very great record in its own right. And then we have Death the Brutal Way, which people say this is their return to form, which I kind of call bullshit, but it's just because it was their first album that had Van Drunen back, so people say it's a return to form, but like I said, how to return to form when you never lose form to begin with, but oh well. Here's the... I know there was a delay in between albums. I believe On the Wings of Inferno was like 98 or 97. This one wasn't until 2007, so I'm not sure what the holdup was. They probably just went on hiatus or something, but anyway, oh well, it does not matter. Yep, on the Death the Brutal Way, 2007. This is a 2009 reissue. So not sure why they bothered repressing it that much earlier. I mean, but anyway. Yep. And then Death Hammer, my favorite of their 2000s era, which isn't a very pretty much a like universally beloved opinion. This is definitely one of their more popular albums. I would say probably their most popular since the last one on Earth, but like I said, I think God Cries and Embrace the Death are better, but anyway. This is 2012 is when this one came out. And I believe this was the very first Asphyx record I ever heard, so I didn't go from the beginning. I heard this one first. Not when it came out, a couple years later, but oh well, it doesn't really matter. I would say the title track is definitely, I would say, probably like their biggest hit. I would say that's like their signature song now, it seems like. This is true death metal, you bastards! So yeah, awesome record. Definitely one of their best, and for sure the best of their 2000s era. Which is a shame because this, Incoming Death, this is honestly my least favorite of their albums, which it's not a bad one, it's still good, but I just feel like the songwriting wasn't as strong as what came before it, which, though to be fair, following Death Hammer, they had kind of a heavy task at hand, but I was still expecting a little bit more, but like I said, not bad just compared to Death Hammer didn't hold up. And this one's 2016, if I did not mention that. And again, put out through Century Media, who I keep saying. that did all their stuff. I believe, yeah, the drummer, I believe he was in Sodom for a little bit, which is cool. I think he played in Sodom first and then left to join Asphyx, or he was in Asphyx and left to join Sodom. I don't forget which way it went, but I know it was one of those two options. But anyway, Incoming Death, my least favorite, but still a very good album. And then The Crossrace, 2021, the most recent full length, which is already 5 years old, which is wild. I remember when this came out, so it doesn't seem like 5 years ago already, but time goes by fast, I guess. Better than Incoming Death, but not as good as Death Hammer. A little bit of a faster record than the previous couple, which is pretty cool. But anyway, I need to spin this one again. It's been a minute since I've played this album specifically, but if I'm going for the last three, it's usually Death Hammer. But anyway, I'll probably play this later today since it's been a while. Yep, Asphyx Necrosaurus. Asphyx rules, so whatever they do next, I'm sure will be awesome. So, looking forward to the next full length. So, come on, guys, it's been 5 years already, so get to it. I'm sure they're working on new material though, because it was a 5-year break in between Incoming Death and that record, so we'll see what happens. Alrighty. So let's go to Spain with a band I see compared to Asphyx a little bit, but I think that's unfair because I think they have their own sound. And I think, in my opinion, one of the more underappreciated bands from the Duck Descent roster. This is Ataraxy with Revelations of the Ethereal. So this is their debut, I believe, and this has bonus tracks taken from some festival they played. That was on a 7-inch EP that was originally released in 2016. So I'm assuming this was like 2017, around there is when this came out. So musically, I don't really think they sound much like Asphyx, but I think the main comparison is the vocal style. But honestly, there's a lot of bands that are going for that like super dehydrated Van Druden choking on blood vocal approach in the last decade, so I don't really blame people for that comparison, but I still think it's kind of a lazy one, but they have their own sound. Maybe because they're not Dutch and they're from Spain, so they have a different approach to their music, but anyway. Yep, Ataraxy, Revelations of the Ethereal. Then my entry point, which was Where All Hope Fades. This is 2008. And recorded and mixed in 2016. Okay, so it came out in 2017 because it was recorded and mixed in November and December of 2016. Okay, that's what I thought. I had a feeling it was 2017. I remember when this came out, it was getting a lot of hype, and I checked it out, and I ended up really liking it a lot, but that's why I bought it, obviously. So yep, that is Where All Hope Fades from 2017. Again, put out through Duck Descent. And then I believe this is their most recent full length, and I think their best one so far. This is The Last Mirror. This seemed to get a little bit less hype than the previous album. I'm not sure why. I think this was even better, but oh well. Maybe because there was a lot of stuff coming out at the time, so you can't hear everything, I guess. Cool painting, though. I love that. It's just so simple with the two skulls and the candle, but it's very effective. That's pretty awesome. Then we got the lyrics and the guys in the band. I'm not sure what's going on now. Let me see. Yeah, recorded and mixed during the summer of 2021 and mastered in August of 2021. So I think it came out in late 21 or early 22 is when this one came out. But yep. So Adoraxia, guys, we need a new album from you. It's been 5 years already, which is wild, but oh well. So again, if you like Asphyx, even I think it's kind of a lazy comparison, but if you just want a awesome death doom band, I think it's kind of underrated in the modern scene. check out Adoraxy. All the albums are good, but like I said, this one I think is my favorite, so check out The Last Mirror. Alright, let's go to Sweden. This was a newer arrival. By new, I mean sometime last year, so because I'd been wanting it for a while, and luckily I finally found it for a good price because it got reissued recently. This is Authorize with the Source of Dominion. So 1991 Swedish death metal. Not your typical like Entombed or Unleashed or Entombed Dismember sound. I would say to me it's closer to something like God Macabre or the Grotesque record. Not Grotesque. Gourmet record. So definitely kind of like slightly like Peaceville sounding-ish, but I still think they have their own sound. But I said they're from Sweden though, so not like your typical like, it's not like Death Doom, but you know what I mean. Like a little bit of like a darker edge to their songwriting, but cool picture, I love that. I know this doesn't look like much by the cover, it's kind of a cheesy artwork, but anyway. Yep, awesome album. This is a Dark Descent, Dark Symphonies reissue, so that is pretty sweet. So check it out if you want some good, I guess you could say second tier Swedish death metal. Check out Authorize, The Source of Dominion. Great record. Alrighty, finishing off this video with the fucking Kings. We're in the A's, so you know where this is going. Autopsy. So, I kind of have a hard time believing you're not a real death metal fan if you don't like some Autopsy, but I don't know, to each their own, but I still think it's kind of bizarre if you don't like at least something by them. But anyway, we have the debut, Severed Survival, which I greatly prefer that cover art to this one. That one's always looked kind of goofy to me, which this one's just definitely a lot creepier because it's, you like see that image like when you go to the dentist, but obviously without this, but you kind of like imagine it. But at least I have since I started seeing this artwork around. This is definitely my favorite Autopsy record, but most of them are awesome. This came out in 1989, which for 89, this was super ahead of its time. Nothing in death metal sounded like this back then. I don't think anything has quite sounded like it since. Like super disgusting and slimy sounding. I mean, that guitar tone really sounds like they plugged into a bucket of guts and that's their guitar tone. So, and honestly, I think this is kind of influential in the Swedish scene because it's almost like proto buzzsaw-y, but this came out like a year before Left Hand Path did. So maybe they were listening to this a little bit, but this is a lot grosser than the Swedish stuff, but anyway. And then here's the CD too. So yeah, man, definitely one of the most important death metal albums of all time and easily one of the best early albums. So there you go. Severed Survival. I don't have Mental Funeral on CD. I do have that on vinyl though, so I'm not gonna show that today. Actually Unspeakable. I think this is a pretty underrated album in the discography. 1993. There's a lot of songs on this one. This has 18 songs, and then you have the Fiend for Blood EP and bonus live tracks. So including the bonus songs, there's 34 songs on here, which that's pretty long. But anyway, I would say this is definitely their slowest album. So definitely they lean more into the death doom on this one, which I know some folks find this album kind of boring. I'm not sure why, but maybe because I'm not a death doom fan. But oh well. I love that painting too, which you can see. The cover art's taken from, where is it? Yeah, it's taken from the guy upside down, so it's just a zoomed in photo of that. So it would have been cool if they did a LP version with this cover, which maybe that exists, but who knows. I mean, even the song titles on this one are pretty gross, like your rotting face, blackened within, frozen with fear, pus rot, battery acid enema, tortured modes of agony, Walls of the Coffin. Great album, underrated I think. So 1993, actually Unspeakable. I don't have Shit Fun, that's the only album I'm missing in any format, but I'll get that one eventually. That's probably, I think, the most disgusting. Even the album titles like Shit on Your Grave, Burnt to a Fuck. Pretty ridiculous. Then Macabre Tunnel, their comeback record. This album's pretty good, but my problem with it is it's pretty long. It's like over an hour long, which for Autopsy. After about the 45-50 minute mark, I'm like, alright guys, let's wrap it up. I'm ready for something else, but not a bad album, just kind of a little bit too long. This is a Peaceville, no, it came out in 2011, there's no other dates, it's just a OG press from 2011. One of the best artworks though, I love that Wes Spence Scudder painting. I'm assuming it's him because it definitely looks like his artwork. So yep, Macabre Eternal, good record, but they've done a couple better since this. But yep, there you go. Macabre Eternal. Then the Headless Ritual. Of their modern era, this is my least favorite. It's good, but it's not very, the songwriting's kind of, I don't want to say uneven, it's kind of like so-so, I guess. Not a bad album, it's kind of not as good as what came after. Or as good as Macabre Eternal, but it is a shorter album though, so that's good. Though I know a couple people, they don't like this album at all. I wouldn't say I don't like it, just I prefer what came after, so it's not bad. My least favorite is probably Shit Fun, but that's not a bad album, just kind of, that's the most punk sounding record definitely, which I'm not surprised because I know they are fans of punk stuff. This came out in 2013, so a quick turnaround for these next two, because it was 2011 and 2013. And then we have Tourniquets, Hacksaws, and Graves. In my opinion, this I think is their best album since probably Mental Funeral. The first two are my favorite, but number 3 I think is this one, so definitely their best of their modern era. This is definitely a killer album. I mean, it has I love that album title too, Tourniquets, Hacksaws, and Graves. That just screams Autopsy. I love the logo too. I like how they never changed it. Except if you want to check out one modern Autopsy record, this is the one I recommend. It's easily one of the best in their entire discography. And it's 2014 Peaceville, so check that out. Autopsy, Tourniquets, Hacksaws, and Graves. Then we got an EP called Skull Grinder. My favorite song on here is the 5th song, Withering Death. It's super slow but like creepy and heavy sounding. Another one of their best paintings though, another cool Wes Spence Scudder artwork. This came out in 2016. Very simple, that's all we got. And then the CD with the same design as the cover art. Yep. Skull Grinder, awesome EP. Honestly, a lot of EPs I'm usually like, whatever, but this one is awesome, so definitely give this one a listen. And then we had a big break, so that's 2016. This was until 2022, so a 6-year gap between releases and an 8-year gap in between albums. I'm not sure what the holdup was, but anyway. I know they were playing a lot of shows during the time too, so maybe that's why. And this one's called Morbidity Triumphant. Like I said, 2022, this one came out. I know Greg and Chris own another band, which kind of plays like similar style to Autopsy, but they're even more death doomy and they're less gross, called Static Abyss, which is awesome. I know some folks prefer the Static Abyss to the recent two Autopsy records. I can kind of see why, but I still prefer Autopsy overall. But anyway, so Morbidity Triumphant, 2022, and then the next year we got Ashes, Organ, Bloods, and Crips, which is my second favorite of their 2000s material, right behind Tourniquets, Hacksaws, and Graves. So kind of funny they went from a 8-year gap in between albums to doing full lengths in back-to-back years, but then they haven't done anything since this. This was 3 years ago, so we'll see what happens. But anyway, another one of their best paintings, though. I always love Ben Scotter's artwork for them. He's definitely great at capturing that gross Autopsy cover feel. Cool close-up of the album artwork. There's the man. So yeah, that is Autopsy. Looking forward to whatever they do next. Hopefully EP, full length. We'll see what happens. But yep, always hopeful for more Autopsy on the horizon. So that is Ashes, Organs, Bloods, and Crips. Alright, so that is it. Next episode, there's only one more band to mention, A's, and then we'll move on to the B's and so on and so forth. Thanks for watching. I'll try to get another one of these out soon, but we shall see. Anyway, thanks, take care, have a good one. Hails.